Welcome back to the Consistory of the Coelc YouTube channel. I'm your host for this video, Reverend Jake Zabel of St. John's Evangelical Lutheran Church, located in Dalby, Queensland, Australia. A member congregation of the Confessional Orthodox Evangelical Lutheran Communion. And our video for today is we've got a guest, Pastor Orphan Akpan, my fellow pastor in the coelc, who is pastor of the coelc's congregation, the House of Glory Evangelical Lutheran Church in Lagos, Nigeria. And he's going to join us for our episode today to just give us some insight into Lutheranism in Nigeria. So, Pastor Orphan, you, as I just mentioned, you run the coelc congregation in Nigeria, but the coelc is a rather small synod in the world as is, and we've only really got the one congregation there in Nigeria. We're just, before we look at some of the different church bodies in Nigeria, do you know much about the history of Lutheranism in Nigeria? Like, has it always been in Nigeria? How long has it been in Nigeria? Is it a new thing in Nigeria, or is it like something that goes back decades?
Association of my membership of the Lutheran Church of Nigeria. I know that Lutheran Church of Nigeria was established in the country in 1935 through Pastor J.E.U. Ekon. And we thank God that even the seminary in Noburidum is named after him. That's Jonathan Memorial Lutheran Seminary. So he was the founder. He was the one that went to US and brought the Lutheran Church to Nigeria, southern part of it, in this southern Nigeria. And the other one too, I cannot exactly remember the year, but it was the missionary from Sweden that brought them and stationed them in the northern part of it, Newman in Yola. So there are other small Lutheran churches, missions that break off from the Lutheran Church of Nigeria, like that All Saint Lutheran Church. They break off from the Lutheran Church of Nigeria because of certain issues, doctrinal issues. And that one is headquartered at Calabar, and is associated with the Wales Lutheran Church. And there's another one too, Redeemer's Lutheran Church. And also another one, a Church of Lutheran Confession, that is associated with the confessional Lutheran something. I think the pastor is almost here. They are coming for another mission to Africa soon. So those are where the Lutheran Church of Nigeria, as I know, have made a lot of impact in the country, educationally, medically, and agriculturally. They have spread. As at the last count, they were having about 200,000 members, and it's led by an Archbishop Christian Ekon, who's the president of the church in Nigeria. And fortunately, I was a student. I got my primary education from the Lutheran school that was run by the Lutheran Church of Nigeria. And they are basically on ground in the southern parts, especially Akwa Ibom State and eastern part of Nigeria. So that's much I can say about that off-head, but I can do more research. They have their own web, can go through their website and get out more facts from them.
Yeah, I mean, that's good. I just had a quick Google search while we were chatting there. So yeah, you're correct. Yeah, the Lutheran Church of Nigeria, the LCN, as I like to be called, that's the Missouri Synod Sister Church. Yeah, going back to 1935. So they've been there for basically 90 years. According to Google, at least, the Lutheran Church of Christ in Nigeria, the Danish, Swedish, Scandinavian kind of missions, they go back to 1913, apparently.
Of the Lutheran World Federation.
Yeah, the Lutheran World Federation. They go back to 1913
Yeah.
is when their mission. Well, I don't know when the body was formed, but definitely like the earliest missions. From what I can see here, like yeah, the missions go back to like 1913. But like yeah, some of the kind of more like establishing of church bodies and like local ordinations and stuff like that. That was closer to the like 1940s before they started doing a lot more of kind of more actual establishing it as a mission there. As for yeah, the Wells sister church, you said they're crediting according to their website. They also yeah, because they broke off from the Lutheran Church Nigeria. According to their website, that happened in 1969. And they also yeah they talk about their history going back to 1935 with the establishment of the Lutheran Church in Nigeria. But even they mentioned in they didn't mention this on the Missouri's website, but the Wells's website when they're talking about the church, they mentioned that Pastor Jonathan Econ, as you mentioned, that goes like his founding with the like studies and mission, and that according to them goes back to the 1920s even. So yes, basically like 100 years ago is that. And I think you mentioned there was another group, the some confessional Lutheran. Is that connected with like the Church of the Lutheran Confessions, the CLC, or do you not know about them?
Yes, that's the CLC, led by Pastor Drab. I think Pastor Drab, CLC, yes.
So with the beginning of the coelc, the coelc Lutherans now in Nigeria, as we mentioned on like the other interviews I've done with you for this YouTube channel, your congregation first like reached out to us in 2021, and at that point you guys became like associate members of the coelc. We took you under our wing. We worked on our developing church fellowship and making that colloquy connection with you. And as of January 2024, you guys were officially welcomed in as full members of the coelc. So that now makes it, if I understand correctly, 5 different Lutheran church bodies in Nigeria. So you got the big Lutheran World Federation, Lutheran Church of Christ Lutherans. You've got the Missouri Synod Lutheran Church of Nigeria. You've got the Wells All Saints Lutheran Church, and you seem to also have Church of the Lutheran Confessions Nigeria as well, and now also the coelc Nigeria. So for those watching who are familiar with these like American movements, they would be able to probably pick up like some of the maybe differences of that. But for those who are less familiar with the distinctions in American Lutheranism and stuff like that, what would you note are some of the main differences with the different Lutheran church bodies there in Nigeria? So what's some of the main differences that separates the different bodies?
I think the main difference is just the Lutheran Church of Christ ordained women, and they are associated with the Lutheran World Federation. And the other ones, I cannot even actually say what actually happened. But I can remember in 1969 when I was just a boy, when the Lutheran, conventional Lutheran church came through a pastor that was sent to US on a course by the Lutheran Church of Nigeria. He came back and brought the Lutheran, conventional Lutheran church. That's Pastor, I think his name was Pastor Akpabio or something like that. Mm-hmm. That was around 1969. I cannot say about the other one, the Pastor Ode. I think it was about location or maybe transfer or one thing or the other. It was not well why the difference may not have been geological or system. It may be out of maybe location or disagreement on certain arrangement or administrative arrangement. That may have been the reason.
Okay, so wait, which just trying to understand which groups was that? Which groups which groups was that there that had the sacramental problem?
I'm talking about the Redeemers and the All Saints.
Yep.
You know, All Saints and Redeemer that later on. So it was their pastors, they had some differences, maybe disciplinary system that make them to leave the Lutheran Church of Nigeria.
Alrighty. And then probably with yourself, because you mentioned beforehand that like, yeah, you were born and raised kind of in the Lutheran Church Nigeria, and then we've discussed this in your interview episode we did for this channel, where we talked about like you kind of went on a bit of a journey into like Pentecostalism and other movements before you're coming back to the Lutheran faith. And with coming back to the Lutheran faith, you decided, after interacting with us online, you decided to reach out to the coelc and extend fellowship with us. Just to ask there, what drove you more to seek fellowship with the coelc rather than to like just pursue going back to the Lutheran Church in Nigeria?
And in search for more knowledge about Lutheranism, and I come to realize that the college are so more traditional. In the other Lutheran church, we have all these things, like discovered has a lot traditional Lutheran beliefs. So that is why when I read about it, I decided that I have to belong to this group. And that is why I'm here. We are all working to spread the gospel of the Lord Jesus Christ in it, because the Bible says we must do it anywhere we are. So where I am now, I am also working to spread the gospel according to the scripture.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I like, yeah, as you were saying that the coelcs, we're a bit more with traditional Lutheranism. I don't know what the situation is like with the Lutheran Church Nigeria, but like, for example, one of the reasons why we in the coelc have not entered into fellowship with groups like Missouri Synod in America or like the new Lutheran Mission Australia is that like women's ordination is not really the only issue. A lot of those church bodies they've weakened up on issues of church fellowship, and they've weakened up on issues of the ministry. I mean, for example, we don't have lay ministry in the coelc, whereas a lot of those churches do. They keep giving more and more of the responsibilities of the minister to the laity. There's like many of these churches, they don't have women pastors, but they have women lay people that are allowed to do pretty much most of the things a pastor can do anyway. So I don't know what it's like in Nigeria, but like, yeah, a lot of the sister synods in Australia and America of them have definitely gone that way. There's also they tend to have what we call triangular church fellowship. It's not full on open communion, but it's like a situation where they will have fellowship with churches that are also member churches of the Lutheran World Federation. So while Missouri Synod may not themselves have fellowship with the Lutheran World Federation, they are having fellowship with other churches. Now, there's certain ones that have sometimes dropped some of their World Federation fellowship, and I don't know all of them. One I do know of, for example, is the Good News Lutheran Church in Papua New Guinea. It's not only in fellowship with Missouri, but it's also in fellowship with the Lutheran Church of Australia that recently just started ordaining women. It is a member of the Lutheran World Federation since like the 90s or something. And so even though Missouri's not in fellowship with either of those church bodies, they are in fellowship with a church that itself is then in fellowship with that church. And it's kind of that, like, you know, the guilt by association of going like, well, hold on, if you guys don't want to have fellowship with the Lutheran World Federation, then why are you participating in fellowship with a church body that is a member of the Lutheran World Federation or has fellowship with them? So Missouri and that have tended to go very kind of soft on church fellowship these days, and really also like, yeah, issues of the ministry are kind of probably the main issues that have separated the coelc from like groups like Missouri and stuff like that. So with Missouri's with the Lutheran Church of Nigeria being sister synod of Missouri Synod, do you know what the situation is over there in regards to like lay ministry, like lay people serving in the church, or even like lay women? Like, can women vote in their churches, or can women serve in their churches within the divine service in the Lutheran Church of Nigeria, or is that not yet an issue over there?
Before now, but I know that women do text on the school. I know among some of the jobs or some of the service they can render, they are also they can serve, but they are not ordained as ministers.
Yeah, so
they're not ordained.
They've got women's lay ministry at the moment.
Yes, they can be elected into the board, maybe church council or board, but they cannot serve as pastors.
Yeah, but they've still got women's lay I've got women's lay ministry, which would be something that we in the CALC would not support. That sound if they can be on the board, sound like they would also support women's voting in the church, which is also another issue that we in the CALC don't have. And I would assume, so yeah, if they're women serving like that, I would assume they'd have like a lot of lay ministry. So I can like over there in the Lutheran Church Nigeria, can like lay people like lead services and preach sermons and administer the sacraments, or not?
Yeah. No, the women don't serve.
No, not the women. I just
elders,
like laymen. Can laymen serve in those positions?
Those women called elders.
Okay, yeah.
They can act as pastors. Elders.
Yeah. No.
They have ordained elders.
They're ordained elders. Yep.
So that's
or not ordained.
Ordained elders. They lay their hands.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So it does sound like, yeah, the Lutheran Church in Nigeria is a little bit more conservative than groups like Missouri Synod. I think that might be a bit of a cultural thing over there. With Africa tends to be more conservative than a lot of the Western countries these days.
So we in Africa, we are more conservative than the Americans. They have their own system of gender and all these things. But in Nigeria here, we seem to follow male supremacy over women and all these things. So that should be a problem. But in the north, in the Lutheran Church of Christ on the north, they are fully involved in women. They have women pastors and all that things. The Lutheran Church of Nigeria have not experienced women pastors for now.
Yeah.
But I can see women leaders and women taking part in the Sunday school. When I visited my church where I grew up, where I was born in my village, I even saw a woman leading in the Sunday school. And I don't think college will allow that. So that's one of the things. There were men there. The pastor was even.
Well, Sunday schools, we would generally allow Sunday schools, but then there's a reason why historically Lutherans have referred to Sunday school as Sunday school, not like children's church, because as Luther allows as women can serve in positions of like teaching children, and they can serve in positions outside of the church. So, you know, if like a Lutheran church has like a day school we generally would allow a female to serve as a teacher, but not as a pastor. And with Sunday school, this is why historically we refer to it as Sunday school and not like children's church, like a lot of modern people, because we try to make the point of no, Sunday school is school. That's why a lay person, even a lay woman, could lead Sunday school, because it's a school. It's not a church thing. Whereas these days people try to make it children's church, and you're like, well, hold on. It's not children's church, because church is where we gather together for word and sacrament. That's not. I mean, you can kind of have the word in Sunday school, but it's not really a divine service. So, yeah, we would allow women to serve in those capacities, but yeah, definitely not on boards or those leadership positions. The church because the Bible is clear that women are not to have authority over men in the church, and women are not to have leading, teaching, preaching, serving roles within the church. Yes, if the church has secular authorities, things like schools or charities or stuff like that, yeah, women can get involved in there. That's been a historical thing. Go back to the deaconesses of the Bible, the nuns in the early church and Catholicism. Yeah, you can have women serving in those kind of secular capacities of a church's mission, but definitely not in the church proper, and definitely not in like leadership positions in the church. And yeah, so yeah, I'm hearing it's good to hear that the Lutheran Church in Nigeria there is a little bit more conservative than maybe their sister synods in the West, and hope and pray for the members in that church that maybe, especially with your connection to the coelc, maybe they might like to look beyond their own church body and maybe aim for a more traditional church like the coelc. I mean, our pastor Peter over in Kenya, that's how he's come to join the coelc. He was a member there of the Evangelical Lutheran Church of Kenya, which is another Missouri Synod sister synod, and seeing where Missouri is headed, and also in Kenya, seeing the Lutheran Church of Kenya heading down that more liberal route. He decided that he didn't want to be a part of that anymore, and he stepped away from that. Also, while he's not a pastor, our kind of lay Kuster Anderson over in Papua New Guinea, who's kind of overseeing our congregation over there. Again, similar thing. They were part of the Good News Lutheran Church in Papua New Guinea, which is the Missouri Synod's sister synod. And he's like, yeah, but it's a member of the Lutheran World Federation. It's a fellowship with the Lutheran Church of Australia. It's got, it's moving in that same liberal direction as like Missouri and that is doing. And he didn't want to be a part of that anymore. And he came across the coelc, and he's like, hey, can I join you guys? We'd rather be part of the coelc, because we see you guys holding to that more traditional conservative confessional Lutheranism, whereas other church bodies like Missouri and that they say they're confessional, but they're kind of just like the more liberal churches about 30 years ago. They're not really confessional churches. They're not really conservative churches. They're like just worse versions of the liberal churches. And if things don't get turned around soon, they will very much end up in the same places as those more liberal churches. So like not knowing much of the on the ground situation in Nigeria there, but like, yeah, if I would kind of caution the members of the Lutheran Church of Nigeria that, would encourage them to, maybe seek out fellowship with groups like the coelc, more traditional conservative members, because Missouri has been moving in a more liberal direction, and if they stick with Missouri, they're probably going to get pulled in that direction as well. So it's only a matter of time. And yeah, as I said, there are some theological differences between the coelc and Missouri, and would be the similar differences there between like the coelc and the Lutheran Church of Nigeria. As for groups like the other churches you mentioned, like All Saints and the Church of Lutheran Confessions, interestingly, we have differences with them too, but they tend to be different differences. So, for example, Wells has tended to be a more conservative church body in that way, more conservative, traditional. And I could, not knowing the on the ground situation, I could imagine that the group that broke off to form All Saint probably did so because they probably may have felt the Lutheran Church in Nigeria going that more kind of liberal leaning direction as well. I don't know all the situation. That would be more for you to tell me if you know the details. But Wells and the CLC, they tend to be more traditional conservative members. But generally the reasons why we in the CALC don't seek fellowship with them is because they do tend to be much more low church Lutheran church bodies. They tend to have a bit more of a lower view of the sacraments, being more receptionist when it comes to the sacrament, and they tend to also have a much more low view of the ministry. Again, that issue of lay ministry coming up, where that is itself in America has been one of the big dividing factors between Missouri Synod and the Wisconsin Synod, has been disagreements over church and ministry and fellowship and stuff like that. So while groups like the Wells and like then the All Saints Church in Nigeria would probably be we would probably have much agreement with them on situations like church fellowship and more traditional values and conservative values. If they're in fellowship with Wells, I can guarantee you that they would not have women serving in the church in any capacity. They wouldn't have women voting or women's leaders, because that is a position that where Wells and coelc agree. But then, yeah, when it comes to issues of like the sacraments and the ministry, that tends to be our areas of disagreement between like coelc and Wells. That's where at least in realms of the sacraments, the coelc and Missouri are probably more in line. Again, traditionally the coelc and Missouri would be probably similar views on the ministry as well. Like if you go to the older Missouri Synod, I would argue that I would hold to, like Walther and myself would have very similar views on like the ministry and service in the church. But as of like the mid 1900s is when Missouri started moving in that more lay ministry tradition, which groups like ourselves and Aldona and the CLM, we don't practice lay ministry. We don't support that. We would hold to the more older Lutheran view in regards to the ministry, whereas Missouri's kind of weakened on that view and actually would find themselves now lining up a little bit closer to the Wisconsin Synod, not exactly in agreement, but they have moved more that Wisconsin direction in regards to the ministry, though not in regards to situations like church fellowship and women in the church. So basically, yeah, if we took the position to narrow it down, like the coelc, when it comes to church fellowship, we're probably very similar to groups like the Wells, also groups like Aldona. When it comes to the sacraments, we're probably closer to groups like Aldona and Missouri. When it comes to the ministry, we're probably closer to Aldona, and we'd probably more disagree with Wells and Missouri at this stage. Which is why I had this little symbol on the internet from a while back of what I call the coelc triangle. It's got like Missouri, Wisconsin, and Aldona is like the three corners, and then like the coelc's like kind of in this middle position where like we agree with all three in some areas, but then other areas we disagree with them on. So we're really kind of that middle ground of Lutheranism, and I'd encourage people to find that middle ground. Don't go to the different extremes of Lutheranism. Thank you, Pastor Orphean, for your time and taking out your time to have this interview and telling us a bit about Lutheranism in Nigeria. I'll wrap up goodbye now. Is there any final messages you'd like to say regarding Lutheranism in Nigeria and to the viewers out there?
Well, I want to thank you so much, Pastor Jack. I believe that with God on our side, we shall move forward. So I want to thank everyone listening to us. God bless you. Bye-bye.